In today's training, I'm going to do this video on how to raise this cab and check the fluids on this Pierce aerial we have here. With that being said, we're going to walk through all the steps that you need to do to make sure we don't damage something, that we don't put something through the windshield, that we don't crack the windshield, that we don't release the emergency brake and this thing starts going down the road. Now, this is an aerial. This is Truck 2's aerial. This also works for even our other Pierces that we have here in Georgetown, our E1, and there's just a few little differences between them, but they're all basically the same. If you haven't done this yet, make sure you have a captain or somebody that knows what they're doing to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So the very first thing we want to do is we in our bays in Georgetown, we cannot raise this up inside the firehouse. We actually have to bring them outside the firehouse because with the garage door opener, they won't come up. It will not come up all the way with and getting the safety latch on, which is very critical. That is a critical thing. We got to have the safety latch on. So with that being said, we have to pull them outside. With this one being an aerial, we're actually going to have to raise the aerial. So that will be one more step we have to do with the aerials, but but everything else will be the same. So the very first thing is what we need to do is once we get out, we need to set our chocks, our wheel chocks here. And what this is designed to do is, and you got to watch these because these are finger mashing things here. We're going to put or at least one wheel chock here, and actually we're going to put both wheel chocks. And what can happen is, and I have seen this happen. I was a fire truck mechanic for about 7 years for a local dealership, and what can happen is when they went to put the ladder up, a radio went down and hit the air brake, and it did release the air brake. So this is why we want to put chocks down, so that way this thing does not just take off and start moving down the road, which would be bad. All right, so now that we got the chock set, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go inside the cab, and we're going to make sure that everything is secure. We're going to secure the SCBAs. We're going to make sure that our headsets aren't where they can fly up and hit the windshield. We're going to make sure our water can's good. We're going to make sure our axes are tied down. We're going to make sure that our books and everything like that is all secure. Again, we're just going to make sure everything's secure here. Nothing can fly up. We got some books here. They probably would stay in here. If you got a hook here, I always just take these off and put them down here in the floorboard. We just want to make sure that nothing is going to fly up and hit the windshield. These windshields, especially in our new Pierces, are very, very, very expensive, and we don't want to break them. On here, we want to make sure our mics are tight. And this here, see how this is loose? This can fly up and hit that windshield. So I always take it down and put it down in the floorboard. This here is not going nowhere. On our SCBAs, they should be, there's these little hooks right here, and they go right in here, and this keeps this from falling out. And these will come out if we do not put them connected in there. That will keep this connection here. Also, on the headsets up here, it's actually got the headset where it'll go this way, so I won't remove that headset. So we got all the stuff in the front of the cab here. We want to make sure the back side of the cab is all buckled in. You can use a seatbelt like we did here. That will keep it coming. It's probably best this one actually don't have the little brackets to do it, so that's the only way we can do it. If we have stuff that we know that will fall out, like our books, we're going to take all them out, and we're going to set right here. We're going to set down here on the floor behind the engine cover, because the engine cover won't allow that to come up. And like I say, this is a critical to make sure this stuff, it will not come out and fly in the windshield. It will bust it for sure. The next thing we want to do, this engine's not so bad, but a couple of the other ones have a front intake here that come up here for a front large diameter intake with 25 foot of hose on it, or 50, yeah, 25 foot of hose. We want to make sure that it's pointed out. It will go right up in this light and break these lights out. So we want to make sure all this stuff, because when this pivots up here, we want to make sure that it's not in the way of a tool. Sometimes we had an engine that had tools on it, and they would go right up into these lights and stuff and bust out the lights. So we want to make sure all that is removed. Once we got all this stuff that we got ready to do, the next thing we need to do is start the truck and raise the aerial. We need to put our outriggers out. We're going to put our outriggers out. We're going to pin it and everything like that. All right. So like I said, I know this isn't on every process that we got to raise the ladder on an engine. We don't have to take, we can take that step out. But I just wanted to show it to you while I'm at this station. So the next thing what we're going to do is we got to find where we need to hook it up. So what we have here on this truck, we have a controller right here. It actually gets plugged right here in the front. Now, on all on our other Pierces, our newer Pierces, engine 2, engine 3, there's a box right here that we can go in and we hit a switch and it makes it go up and down. And I will show you in a video, I'll show you in a clip of that, of where it is on the Pierces. There's a little switch in engine 15. On this truck, it actually got a remote right here. It just clips in right here. Now, with that, I've checked everything. I always double check again. We want to make sure all the doors are closed, that they're not half open like this, because what happens is they can go in, they can make it go bad like that. I usually leave the driver's door open, and the reason why I do that is because the ignition has to be on for us to raise this up here. We just can't raise up the cab and then without the master on and the ignition. That's the only way it works. We have a switch right here. It has raise and lower on it, and then we have another switch that has a release. I'll show you with that release when we get to there, but this is the one we need, is the raise right here. So I gotta go turn on my power. All right, so I turned on my power and we're gonna raise it here. When we're raising, we want to make sure we got clearance here. We want to make sure we have no overhead, no electric lines. Make sure I raise the ladder tall enough, the whole nine, everything like that. And when you do this, I've done this 1,000 times, I still pray that I don't send something through the windshield. As I'm raising this up, you're going to see in here, there is a latch right here, this piece right here. That is a safety latch. Do not ever get underneath this thing without that safety latched in there. You can see that it just popped in there, and this lock release actually pulls that. Now, on engine 2, engine 3, it's actually on the other side, and it's a bar you pick up that sits on the frame rail that you go up underneath there. What you can do once you get it up there is you can lower it down a little bit so that latch will not come out of there again. You can see this little metal tab right here keeps that from coming out, and that way this is where it is the safest right there that this can be. We do never, ever get underneath this cab without that safety latch hooked. That is probably the number one thing if you don't learn nothing else. Don't ever get underneath this cab without the safety latch. There's been mechanics, other people have died because that safety latch was not all the way put on and put in place. Rather, it was that. When I used to work as a mechanic, and if it was broke, I would go get a 4x4 and put into something just to make sure that this cab cannot come down on you. All it takes is something to go wrong with the hydraulic hose or something like that, and this cab will come down and crush you and kill you. So that is the main important part there with that. One thing, we're getting ready to lower the cab. We want to make sure everything is clear, everything is out from underneath of it. We're going to make sure everything is out from underneath of it. We didn't forget anything. Check both sides. We'll have to, if we unhook it, we'll have to turn our batteries back on. Once the batteries are on, one thing that works, how this works is, these are our cab locks right here, and I will show you what happens here. When we're lowering this cab, we want to make sure we will hold that button for about 30 seconds after the cab's all the way down. And what that will allow us to do is that will make this go in, and there's a little pin right here. You can see the pin, you can see it sticking out here. That will lock this cab in, and that keeps that cab from rocking. So what we need to do is check, make sure everything's out. Always check 2 or 3 times. We got to raise the cab up a little bit. We're going to push the cab release right there, you can see, or you're going to take the cab down, and then once the cab, you'll have to really hold the release. Hold the release, and then we're going to lower the cab. And when we're lowering it, we'll make sure everybody's out of the way. They should go where they need to go at. And we just want to make sure nobody's underneath everything. We'll bring it all the way down. So once this cab gets all the way down, you can let go of the cab release. Once the cab goes all the way down, we're going to hold that button for 30 seconds because we want that cab lock to come in. And I think, let me see if I can see the button. You can see the little pin in there is actually pulled in now where it was out, and that means it's locked. With the cab lowered, we want to make sure the next thing that we go back in the truck, we put everything back where it went. We release the seats for the seat belts for the SCBAs, so that way when we're getting ready for that call, we'll be ready and we're not going to get hung up. I've seen it time after time. We forget to do it, and you get stuck. You got to come out of your gear and unhook that button there. So those are some things we want to make sure. Make sure the front up here is everything's tucked back away. If we had to take any tools off, we put the tools back on it. We don't run over it, that kind of stuff. This is a great thing. If you've never done it, go out with your officer or somebody or a senior firefighter and do this skill here of raising this truck up and down, and especially if you're trying to get released off of the engines. So if you would like to learn more about checking the oils and where all the oil stuff is, check out my next video right here, and I'll see you in my next video.